Hello. Today I'd like to talk to you about one of my favorite Philip K. Dick novels, 1965's The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. To set up the background of this story, it began as a short story called The Days of Perky Pat, which appeared in the December 1963 Amazing magazine. In The Days of Perky Pat, the survivors of a nuclear war live in what they call fluke pits, it being a fluke that they survived the war. And one of them is the Oakland fluke pit where the main characters live, and they uh, are taken care of by these strange beings called Martian care boys who drop packages to them of vital supplies. Well, other than food, they don't use the supplies to rebuild civilization. Instead, they play this rather nostalgic game called The Days of Perky Pat, where they build more and more sophisticated layouts for this doll who's rather Barbie-like called Perky Pat, and her boyfriend Walt, who's a Ken-like character. And they pride themselves on building more and more specialized miniature layouts. Like one will say, "Oh, I built a working lawnmower." Another one says, "Oh, I built a radio." Another one says, "I built uh, an air conditioning system for Perky Pat's apartment." That kind of thing. And they play this game almost, endlessly to distract themselves from the misery of their lives, but they're also not rebuilding civilization the way they could if they weren't, deluded. And they meet some survivors from another fluke pit, I believe in San Rafael, who have a different doll called Connie Companion, who is older and more sophisticated. She can become pregnant. She has a job. Her husband is like a lawyer, or something more sophisticated than Walt, and they drive a reasonable car, and they decide they're going to play a game with them to for the possession of all the layouts, and the San Rafael players win, and therefore they get possession of all of the Perky Pat layouts, including the dolls. And now the Oakland Fluke Pit survivors don't know what they're going to do, but they discover that their children aren't at all interested in this delusional world that they've created. They are actually starting to rebuild civilization the way they should have done, but they allowed this delusion to distract them. Um, Dick cleverly transplants this setup into the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, which takes place on Earth, where global warming has gotten so bad nobody can go outside without specialized equipment, and you'll get a sunburn in like a second. And so the UN has started this draft where they send colonists out to Mars and other planets to colonize, and they live rather miserable lives. So they have become dependent both on Perky Pat, which is now controlled by a major corporation called Perky Pat Layouts Inc., run by a rather tyrannical CEO called Leo Bolero, and a drug called CAN-D, that's CAN-D, which is a hallucinogen that allows them to believe that they're actually living in this world, and they can actually become Perky Pat or Walt or other characters in the Perky Pat universe. The main character, Barney Mayerson, is a quote-unquote pre-fash consultant who works at Perky Pat Layouts in New York City. He can, through precognition, predict which fashions are going to be in a particular year or month for the Perky Pat users. And he, for instance, in the beginning, he predicts that Civil War era fashions are coming back in. And so they start designing miniature, Civil War outfits and things for Perky Pat and Walt to be sent out to the colonies. And meanwhile, Palmer Eldritch is a space explorer who was going out to explore the Proxima Centauri system, and his spaceship is intercepted by the UN and crashes on Mars, Pluto rather, and he claims that he's found a different drug called Chew-Z, and that's CHEW-Z, which he says is so powerful that you only need to take it once, and you don't need the physical layout to enter the Perky Pat universe or any universe you want. It'll take you to any hallucinatory universe that you want to create, and you control it. And the UN has agreed that they're going to allow it to be licensed for use in the colonies if Eldritch can get back to Earth. Leo Bolero tries to get to Eldritch because obviously if Chew-Z becomes more popular than CAN-D, he's ruined. And of course his whole life is making the Perky Pet layout. So if you don't need him anymore, then he's put out of business. So he tries to meet him, but he goes up to the moon, but he's been sequestered in a UN hospital. He somehow sneaks in, and he has sort of a fight with Eldritch. Eldritch injects him with Chu-Z, and then he and Eldritch have sort of a philosophical argument in this hallucinatory world that Eldritch has created, where they each have a certain amount of power, but it's indicated that in the future, Leo Bolero has killed Palmer Eldritch, and he keeps reappearing in a sort of hallucinatory version where he has these three stigmata. He has steel eyes, metal teeth, and a robotic right hand. And that's the only way you can tell that it's Eldritch when these three stigmata appear on an individual. And Mayerson was supposed to go to the moon. He was supposed to inject himself with Chu-Z and then inject a toxin to make people think that Chu-Z is dangerous and that it'll kill you if you take it. But he doesn't do it. He goes to the moon. He's kidnapped, I think, by Eldritch's agents. And what Eldritch is apparently planning to do, his body is old and dying in the UN hospital. He wants to take over Mayerson's body, which is young, and use it. And then in Mayerson's body, he's going to go to Earth and take over and, start introducing people to Chu-Z and, make them choose it over Candy. And Bolero somehow becomes aware of this, and he rather reluctantly rescues Mayerson, but also he learns that he wasn't, he didn't act to save him, and he didn't take the drug he was supposed to, the toxin he was supposed to take, so he fires him. Now Mayerson has nothing to do. He's been sent a UN conscription to go to Mars, and he decides he's gonna accept it, a draft to go to Mars, and he says he's gonna accept it, even though he knows life there is kind of miserable. He goes there and he meets some of the colonists and realizes what lousy, awful lives they have. Their lives consist of, cheating on each other's wives and gossiping about each other and taking candy and living the life of Perky Pat. Well, he doesn't like that very much. He eventually gets a hold of an illegal injection of Chu-Z, and then he meets Palmer Eldritch in this universe that he's supposed to control, but it's not true. Palmer Eldritch is the one who's in control, and of anybody who takes Chu-Z, and he discovers this kind of secret that Eldritch isn't a benevolent person at all. He's not, in fact, sure that it is Palmer Eldritch, or if it's some sort of an alien who has possessed Palmer Eldritch's body and memories and is using him. That's never really resolved. Like I said, he is rescued by Bolero and shown a vision of the future by himself and by Ronnie Fugatti, in which it appears that Bolero has killed Palmer Eldritch, and there's even a statue to him claiming that he's defeated an enemy of the Sol system. And so now he's convinced that that's what's going to happen. The ending is somewhat ambiguous. It ends with Leo Bolero heading towards Earth in a spaceship, and he's going to intercept Palmer Eldritch and prevent him from introducing Chu-Z to Earth and to the Martian colonists. But we don't know if it actually happens because there are indications that he sees somebody with steel eyes and metal teeth and a robotic right hand. So is it really Leo Bolero, or is it Palmer Eldritch? Is he still under the influence of Chu-Z even though he thinks he's not? It brings up some of the principal themes in Dick's work, such as what is reality? Is there such a thing as shared reality, or is that an illusion? And also the nature of God. Is God good, or is God malevolent? Or is there a dark power, opposing God, the devil, if you want to call it that? Or are they the same thing? And that's kind of something that comes up in a lot of Dick's work. I think that partly comes from his being a Catholic and sort of Catholic precepts. But it's very interestingly explored, and I think it's a very good and interesting novel. Very weird, very trippy. I don't think it could ever be made into a movie. It's just so weird that I can't imagine them filming it. Plus the ending is, like I say, it's ambiguous. He leaves it up to you to decide, is this real or is this not real? Is Leo Bolero just imagining he's going to Earth, or has he actually defeated Palmer Eldritch by breaking the spell of Chu-Zi. You have to decide. There are some references to this book in David Cronenberg's 1999 film Existence, which is about a video game that blurs fantasy and reality. And the two principal characters, played by Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh, ingest fast food from a place called Perky Pat's. And that, of course, is a reference to the Days of Perky Pat, the origin of this story. The novel was allegedly one of John Lennon's favorites, and when he met Philip K. Dick, told him that he wrote the song Paperback Writer about Philip K. Dick, which I think is kind of interesting. Anyway, I hope you'll read it, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and please feel free to leave comments and to subscribe to my channel.